How do developers want to use AI tools? It turns out for all the boring stuff, just like code comments, I don't know, code comments, the AI can do it for me and it gets it pretty right. It does a pretty good job most of the time. Also, writing unit tests and tests when I'm writing tests for my code library. If I want to write I don't ever really want to write. Sometimes you've heard of TDD, test-driven development, where you write the test before you even write the code. That can be kind of a fun game. It just doesn't usually end up happening that way. You kind of know what you need to accomplish, and then now you're kind of stuck without any test coverage. Your code hygiene will suffer. And so having the AI do it for you automatically actually is kind of nice. We're looking here at a chart from a Microsoft research, results from Microsoft research towards effective support for AI and developers in a survey that covers the desires and concerns from developers. Here's the survey. It has, all the questions and the ideas behind it and the outcomes. So we see here in the outcomes, the developers, in terms of percentages of number of developers who want answered this way. They want the code. They want the AI to answer their test generation woes, right? The boring things, analyzing code, which in my head just means reading code. You don't want to necessarily have to walk through code. There might be a dense chunk of code in here, and you can have an AI take a first pass at it and then give you feedback, give you answers like, it's doing this probably, and then you can go back and read it like, yeah, it might be doing that, or it might not. You always have to audit. Writing documentation as well. RCA, that's kind of interesting, having an AI cover root cause analysis and maybe even writing some of it as well. That could be a good use case, though I'm suspicious. You always got to be suspicious. That's what we're here for. As a software engineer, we're going more towards auditing. That's where our roles are going to be. And thank you to Abi Noda, who wrote this article to bring this research to our attention from Microsoft. This is kind of an overview of the paper that 800 develop art. So here's the details. There's these are all Microsoft developers. It seems 800 of them work at Microsoft. They took this survey and they answered the questions. So that's our source of feedback here. So all 800 Microsoft engineers. They also want authoring and refactoring the code, debugging, compliance, learning as well. So, there's a lot of, just generally helpful things that we can use AI for. So if you were to answer the question what you would use AI for as a software developer and what you'd want to see AI tools help you with on a day-to-day, it would be all the boring stuff. Yes, of course, all the things that are typically tedious, but also the things that you have to do from a good code quality perspective. Now, we saw here that most developers, 96%, want AI to help with routines such as generating tests and writing documentation. That makes sense. That's the majority of the boring stuff. 37% of developers want to have AI simplify administrative overhead tasks, such as email, parsing, and task management. Okay, yeah. I mean, it would be nice if the AI would just, organize everything for us automatically based on what we need to do right throughout the day. It was like, okay, I need to achieve these things. I don't want to have to read anything. I don't want to have to plan anything. The AI can do all that prioritization for us. I'm suspicious still, regardless of that. That is, you don't never know. I mean, it can all be based on, simple criteria about how to organize tasks. Is it impactful? How long will it take? Those sorts of things. So what else? The top use case for Microsoft developers who want to use AI as a tool is in unit and integration and functional tests. That's the number one request from Microsoft developers, and that they want to use out of 800 Microsoft developers who took the survey. They want to use AI tools for generating the tests. That makes the most sense. I mean, they're usually pretty straightforward. The tests are always testing the inputs and outputs of functions that we write as code, and that code coverage will help prevent future problems and improve the stability of the the code that we're building overall. And then also we see here that most of the other common task developers want to use AI for analyzing code, for defects, vulnerabilities, and improvements that can optimize it. Now, I like to use AI myself for optimizing the readability of code. Sometimes I might have indented too many times, and really I don't need to indent ever. In many cases, you can just write code that looks, it just might return early through options, or it might return something, or it might not return something. Like it could be a null, for example, and then you would write your code that way. so that way you don't indent too much. That reduces the overall debt, makes it easy to read, and you have less code. Less code is my favorite. And then optimizations in terms of performance and speed and those kinds of things as well. This kind of work is repetitive, and having an AI do that gives developers more confidence in their results. It's kind of like, I guess, the whole point of the word copilot really helps you do your job, because it's there with you. It's there to help you. It's there to work and improve everything overall. And then writing documentation overall is a common use case for developers to help with, because you have to turn all of what you've written in code and your functions, your inputs and outputs, and then turn that into language and guides and overviews. And it really requires, a lot of typing, a lot of extra typing. Some people like it, many people don't. And so have the AI take care of it for you, and it will, and it does a good job. Some developers are not adopting AI, and they have concerns, essentially apprehensions for not wanting to adopt AI, or kind of, not using it as often as they could. And here's a list from a Microsoft research survey that was conducted through 800 Microsoft developers at Microsoft. I assume that's where they all came from. They were given this Microsoft survey, of course. And there is a list of questions that they provided to sort of understand the apprehensions. Here's the responses to questions about the desire for your concerns over AI, what you might be concerned about. Check this out. The number one is that the developers think that it's more gimmicky than helpful. They don't trust it. It's a neat sort of trick. Sure. Okay, let's really think that through, because these models that generate code into the next token output are statistical algorithms. That's really what they are. They are taking statistics and pushing them to the limit by providing us the next most likely outcome word or token. That's it. That's what these things do. And they can be perceived as gimmicky. What other than even myself, as I'm talking to you now, I'm coming up, every single word that I say is the next token. That's what my brain is doing as well. It's very similar to what an AI is doing. Obviously, it's a different architecture, being it compute, and overall, it's silicon. It's not organic, so there's some differences there. Overall, it's just, yes, that makes sense. This is what developers are thinking. They're saying it is gimmicky. It's not that helpful. They also say that it introduces defects and vulnerabilities into their work. So yes, of course, you do need to be careful here, because you have to always double check. You're always going to double check. Even we have code review practices for different team members. As you submit your work through a pull request, say on GitHub, for example, you're going to ask for a review from reviewers. And this is part of the GitHub workflow on pull requests. And you can even block merges to make sure that there's enough people who have reviewed the code to say it moves forward. So yes, you have to have reviewers. Otherwise, there's potentials for defects and vulnerabilities. So you got to be careful. There's the other one. The number 3 is automating away your job. Yeah, kind of. It is doing part of your job now these days. And engineers who are getting good at using this technology, they are definitely taking away parts of your job. The boring parts right now, writing tests, writing documentation, optimizing code, that is a lot of what you do day to day. The fun part of code, I would definitely say, is writing something brand new from scratch, right? From zero to all the way to complete. Using AI to help you along the way is helpful there for generating some of the codes and algorithms and libraries that you import. I would say that's the most fun. AI still needs you to drive in order for it to accomplish a goal. And you, as a software developer, still have to be there to check every single thing that happens. Here's a big concern. I do see this is actually kind of interesting. If you use too much AI, you rely on it too much, your skills will atrophy, because you're just going to lean on the code assistant to take care more and more for you. And yeah, your skills might atrophy. You might actually reduce your overall rate of learning, but you might even improve your rate of learning. The AI might do something that you didn't expect. And so being a good developer, you have to definitely validate what the AI wrote. You'll go in, you see what it wrote, and you're like, oh, interesting. I would have taken it a different way, but the way it wrote it was really kind of fascinating, and it actually might have done a better job in some cases. Sometimes it doesn't, though. It really depends on how you ask it, and so you have to gain a skill at working with these AIs. Your skills can atrophy. That is kind of scary. Increasing bias in the workplace. The way I read this is that everyone else sees software developers at risk in terms of their job. because AIs can write code for them. This makes you appear less valuable, right? Isn't that kind of scary? It's a little scary because now the brainy part of your job is taken care of by AI code generators. So the smarts are no longer on your shoulders. It's in the algorithm, right? Oh my goodness, that's kind of scary. So now, isn't that mean that our value is perceived as less value? Can't you say that that's the case? That sounds scary to me. I don't see any other way around it. It is the bias in the workplace for sure. And now we have less compensation due to more automation because you're doing less work. Well, I don't know. I mean, the whole point of a software engineer really is to automate processes in general. So they are building tools that are automating systems. And if we have AI doing that and you have a software engineer driving that, you still need that talent there to do that. Though I guess the barrier to entry is a little bit less now because you don't need as much of a seniority in terms of skill because the AI has a lot of that. And even if you have a more of a junior developer, they get to achieve more senior level code output. Even if there are problems with the code, they'll be able to figure out and work with the AI to optimize it and move forward. The time it takes to learn on how to use these new AI tools, yes, it is going to take time to learn how to use the new AI tools. We're at the beginning still. This is still the very beginning. There's going to be a lot more better systems that come out that are easier to use, that we don't have to use custom tricks and write these really long instruction sets in order to get a good outcome. We are definitely going to see improvements there. Right now, you do have to kind of trick the system to get exactly what you want. So that is kind of intense. There's diminishing connections with your peers. Oh, look at that. Now we're just talking with the computer and no one's talking with each other. No one's talking with each other. They're just talking to the AI. I mean, we're kind of doing that with Google anyway. We'd go to Google, we search for, we know what we're searching for, how to do something, how to use a function, how to improve or how to implement an algorithm. And we were kind of doing that with Google rather than connecting with our peers anyway. The AI tools just take that to the next level, of course. So, I mean, we've already lived it before. We're living it again with new AI tools. Monetary costs to deploy within your team and organization. There's not a whole lot of concern, I would say, there in terms of this. Generally, the costs are pretty low. It's not any much different than typical SaaS. And there's a lot of offerings out there. And with the improvement of compute and algorithms, you can run these models on your local system using Ollama. And most computers today can run the models that do a pretty good job. So the cost is less concerning. And then we have having to change your workflows that you've already established. Oh, yeah. Change is hard. It really is. It's one of the things that once you get set in your way and then you have to change, it's a struggle. It really is. Because you have to be very conscious about it, and it takes repetitive effort. And I don't want to. I don't want to change. I already have a comfortable setup here, and I like it, and I'm happy with it, and it does what I want. Impact on climate. No one cares. No one. 1% cares about the impact on climate change. Well, here's the good news. Just like the one above it in terms of monetary cost, the improvement in the algorithms and the efficiency and the hardware efficiency is improving. We're also coming up with green energy that's dramatically growing. If you've noticed, if you looked at the data, the outpace of solar and wind has just been phenomenal over the past just few years. And we're just in the I don't know what, another half decade, we're getting really close to kind of the targets that we want in terms of affecting our goals towards climate. So that is kind of interesting. And then there's some other stuff here that we didn't get in the chart. All right, so we got a quick quote here. It seems to me that more like a gimmick in order for me to let me something to external manage my calendar. I'll prioritize my tasks. Refactoring my code is using projections for services impacting millions of our customers. It would need to prove itself over a long period of time. Trust. Okay, yes, we do need to trust these systems. At the very least, it seems too far away into the future. Meanwhile, so this is skepticism that we're seeing that explains why some organizations are struggling to convince their developers to adopt the AI tools that are being made available to them. This is it's a tough situation. We have to learn. We have to up-level our skills every single day. This is kind of the whole job of a software developer, is to be better, learn more, understand the algorithms. New stuff comes out every day. If you have a college degree, it's already expired in terms of its relevancy after a few years because new technology has replaced it. You have to keep learning, and that's what the job of a software developer is anyway. So this is a challenge for sure, and it is the hardest part of being a software engineer, is that continuous learning and staying on top of things and trends and technology. Many people often fall behind. Good news is that a lot of the foundational technologies are pretty timeless. There's incremental improvements. So far, the AI tools and the adoptions of them, we can see why developers are skeptical right now, because you try it, it gives you bad output, and then we don't take extra time to learn how to correctly interact with these systems that will give you a better outcome. And yeah, you actually might end up spending too much time with these systems and getting incremental improvements. So, you don't know, that's the problem. We just have to get better at these systems, and the systems will get better for us when we're using them.